What are the most common myths about fitness that keep dads stuck in an unhealthy cycle?
That if I just find the right thing to do, then I'm going to get healthy. Then I'm going to get in the best shape of my life.
Yeah.
And that's not true. She mentioned that she's dealing with a lot of heavy stuff all day. And the last thing she wants to do is deal with heavy stuff in the gym.
He's a busy dad. Right,
Yeah.
Balancing the family, balancing everything he's got to do for work, and he's probably got things to do at home. And what are some small, everyday habits that dads can adapt to improve their physical health without overhauling their lifestyle? How do you bring your wife along with that, man?
I can see the enemy approaching the battleground. Hear the drums pound like a thunder sound loud. I gather up my crowd to prepare them for what's coming. We've been summoned.
What's going on? Welcome to Alpha Dad Consulting, a show where we focus on helping dads become better family leaders. I am your host, Vidal, and my guest today is a devoted husband and present father to 5 amazing kids. He has also had success in powerlifting and is a jiu-jitsu practitioner. But on top of that, he's a personal trainer and founder of Chacha Strength Training, and where he's trained world-class athletes, doctors, lawyers, and C-suite executives on all things health and fitness. But on this episode, we're going to cover not just health and fitness, but we're also going to cover how it ties into being a great family leader. Now, I want to welcome to the show, Mr. Brian Chacha. What's up, brother?
What's happening, everybody? I'm so glad to be here, G. I appreciate you putting this on, man. It's such an honor to finally get to do this. We've been talking about it for a while. And,
Yeah, man.
grateful. I'm grateful for you, grateful for what you do. I'm grateful for all the men that you've impacted and how you've impacted my life, man. It's truly, truly an honor to be able to pour back just a little bit of what I have to you, man. So thank you so much for bringing me on board, bro.
Likewise, brother. The honor is mine, man. I love this. Yeah, we've been talking for a while. I've just, like I mentioned in the last episode, I've been on a hiatus with figuring this whole thing out, man. And I think now we're rolling 2025. We're bringing a lot of new content, a lot of new episodes, and we're going to be speaking to a lot of great family leaders this year that's going to give you all the tips and all the tricks and everything we know to prepare you guys as much as possible. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this talk. I'm excited for this conversation that we're about to have. So I want to jump into it, man. You and I know each other because of the Apogee program. That's how we met. And it's been like 2 years almost, since we started rocking. So, and I know you guys came in, we started in January on my class, but you guys started in April, right? So we're just a few months from like the 2-year mark where we met. And one of the things that we talk a lot about, and we've had conversations about this, but we talk about purpose. We talk about answering a calling. We talk about, how a man without purpose sometimes they're suffering in isolation, right? Like they have no direction, no guidance. And a lot of men that I talk to, a lot of men that I consult, they're dealing with that. And one of the things that I've noticed about you, my brother, is that whenever we talk health and fitness, there is no doubt in my mind that you are on your purpose and that you are answering your calling, right? And what I'm curious about for you, man, is I want to know, what was the pivotal moment in your life when you realized that health and fitness was your calling, that you were answering this purpose, man? And why did you feel the need or the urge to actually answer the call, right? Because sometimes we get called, but we don't answer, or we don't take action on it. So I just want to know, man, what was it in your life that made that kind of was the catalyst to that? And then why did you answer?
Yeah, man, that's a really good question. So I would say I realized that I was walking in my purpose, walking in my calling, while training some of my clients, what we were talking about or how we were vibing in between sessions or in between sets had nothing to do with working out, even health. We were getting down to the soul level, man. So I'll just start out and say, man, all glory to God. Like, I realized that what I was doing or what I do when I'm meeting with clients is more than just giving them exercises. I'm a friend. I'm a confidant. I'm somebody that's an encourager. I'm somebody that's a challenger. And so, there was a season earlier in my career where I was really busy and there were people in my life that had a lot of stresses. One story in particular, my client came in and she mentioned that she's dealing with a lot of heavy stuff all day. And the last thing she wants to do is deal with heavy stuff in the gym.
Mm,
And as a strength coach, man, that really, it kind of offended me.
yeah.
Uh, because I didn't understand why she was coming in telling me this when she's coming to me to get stronger, to get in better shape.
Yeah.
But what she had given me was truly a gift because it was the insight of how she truly experiences and how my clients truly experience life. And the gym is like a parallel to that life. So that example, along with many others in that season, where I realized, man, when people come in, it's more than just training. Like this is a space for them to check out of some compartments of their life and really just be with themselves, be on their own in a sense, even though I'm there,
Yeah.
and deal with themselves at a much deeper, more challenging level. And so I hope that answers your question, but that's definitely the catalyst that helped me really take on the purpose of what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that, as you're working with these clients, it's not just the physical act of like working out. There's a deeper connection that you're having with these clients that's more on a spiritual and emotional level, because you're right. These people are dealing with life outside of the gym,
Yeah,
right? Like, so,
yeah,
that they're having you mentioned being a confidant, and like you're working with a personal trainer. There's that personal aspect of it, right? So it's
for sure.
hard to not get into those conversations as
Yeah.
you're spending this time with them on a frequent basis, right? So,
Yeah, man. In our profession, we're trained to keep the personal out of
mm,
the off the gym floor.
yeah,
And I respect that boundary. When we're in the set, it's 100%. Like we're getting after it.
yeah,
There's no questions. Depending on the type of training we're doing, we may have longer rest periods and shorter rest periods. But anyway, there was a moment for me when some of what we were talking about, some of what we were sharing started to color how I look at my life, specifically as a parent. A lot of my clients, decade and a half ago, had kids that were slightly older than mine. Some of them had kids that are my kids' age now,
okay,
and some of them had kids that were getting ready to transition into like college and kind of grown up life, so to
yeah,
speak. And being able to walk with them in those seasons while they're expressing all of the challenges and stuff that they're having with work and everything,
mm,
and seeing how, okay, maybe that worldview or those experiences or those attitudes or whatever those things are have shaped who they are, but also I'm seeing how they're shaping how their kids are
yeah,
and what their relationship was like. If there was turmoil, we're getting into some backstories that like that that's when it became such a deep value for me to be so good at what I do, because now I'm learning, hey, how can I show up in the world? And for me specifically, like for my children, for my wife, like that really started to shape me as a man during that season.
I like that, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good. That's
yeah,
powerful, dude. Because you're right. Not a lot of personal trainers are gonna go that route. Like they're gonna go in, clock in, get their check, right? Just do the
right.
workout, and they said like, hey, I don't want to talk about nothing personal, man. But there's a
Yeah,
deeper connection there, and I love that how you're making that correlation on, how it plays into the home right now. They're showing up at home as
yeah,
well. So
yeah,
one
man.
so one of the things I want to get into, man, is, and I don't think I've ever asked you about this, but your fitness journey, bro. Like, were you
Yeah.
always like, were you always in shape, or was fitness always a part of your life, or is that something that became a part of your life as you got older, or like how did that even come into play? We've had I don't know if you remember Ethan Suplee. The guy
Uh-huh.
from Remember the Titans, big dude.
Yep.
He was a big dude,
Yep.
right? And he got in super
Yeah,
shape.
he's a big dude now,
Yeah,
but
I mean he's a
he's
big,
straight
but in the
muscle.
good, in all the right ways, right?
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
beautiful.
So what was your journey like, man? What kind of failures and setbacks did you deal with coming up on that?
Man, uh, I have been small my entire life.
Okay,
It's not until the last few years that I realized, oh shoot, like I'm not a big guy by any means, but I'm also not as small as I've always seen myself. Man, growing up, From the time I came to this country, I was in the third grade. I was 50 pounds, and I broke the 100-pound mark my freshman year of high school.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
I have been a little human being. I've taken up very little space. Hide and seek champion my whole childhood. Like, people could not find me because I could fit anywhere. I
Yeah.
could fit anywhere. So when I was in the third or fourth grade, the first memory that I have of doing strength training, my father told me a couple of things. He said people that sweat a lot are healthy and they're in good shape. And I was like, okay, cool. I can do that. And then he called them press ups, but he's push ups, press
Yeah.
ups. Man, you do press ups, you're going to be strong and everything. And so there was one particular day I was home alone for whatever reason, and I took my mother's broomstick and my mother's broom, I unscrewed the broom and I got a couple of, do you remember those Tampico juices?
Yeah.
Y'all have Tampico?
Yeah. We grew
Okay,
up
the
on
big old
Tampico,
gallon
bro.
jugs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Hey, that high fructose was
That
nothing but syrup in that mug.
no orange juice in that thing, or no oranges
No,
at all
nothing.
in
It
that
was
thing, bro.
orange color.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
man.
So I took a couple of those empty Tampico bottles, those jugs,
Yeah.
and I filled them up with water, and I put the broom through the handle of either one and crawled up underneath it. And I don't even know where I saw this, but I started doing these like bench presses on the floor.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I lifted, but one of the gallons fell off and spilled water all over the floor.
Oh
I
man.
freaked out. I
Yeah.
like tried to clean it up because I didn't want to make a mess. But that was from a young age. I was fascinated. I was fascinated by physical development or challenging myself, and physicality being
Yeah.
the method for that. I loved running and playing. So fast forward, actually the ninth grade is the first time I started lifting weights. And man, when I touched that bench press for the first time and I maxed out, and dude, let me tell you something, man, your boy at like 97 pounds, my max was 65 pounds. Okay.
And that's almost your
It
full
was
weight, bro, at the time. That
right.
is big
I
time,
can
bro.
almost bench myself.
if
Yo,
you
I
measure
thought I
it by
see stuff.
percentage though, that's not bad. That's pretty
Man,
good.
I
Yeah.
wasn't doing bad, man.
Nah.
But man, I got a taste of that. I got a taste of that bug,
Yeah.
and somebody told me you gotta have protein. Looked in the mother's cabinet and
Mm.
stuff in the kitchen, and all we had was peanut butter. So man, I would work out and eat peanut butter, man. I work out and eat peanut butter. Ninth grade, I ate so much peanut butter one day, man. Like I had the runs, bro. I just, but
Yeah.
I was hungry for it, you
Yeah.
know. And so
Gotta
there was
get
a
that
young
protein in.
lady, man, trying to.
Right.
A young lady that was working in the athletic. What is that person that works with the athletes if they're injured? Athletic trainer.
Okay. Gotcha.
So one of the athletic trainers, I went in there for whatever reason, and she said, "Dang, Chacha, you got muscles, bro."
Yeah.
That was it for
That
me.
was it.
Like from that moment, a girl
And-
recognized
yeah.
that I had. I didn't even know why I was lifting before that. But from that moment, man, yo, I was working out a lot. So that's the long way back story. But man, I've always had I guess a passion or a desire and an interest in physical development, challenging myself and competing with other people. I mentioned earlier, you mentioned earlier, I did some powerlifting in high school and played football, all like the typical stuff. But man, I would say a challenge that I had to overcome really was being a little person,
Mm.
being I became very personable because I didn't have the physicality that other guys had at my age to really have anything to offer as far as whether it's protecting myself or being able to be the man or what have you. So physicality, or training and stuff that helped over time, help me overcome that. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. Like, yeah, I mean, it played into. I mean, I'm making the assumption here, but it played in a lot to your confidence, man. Like the self confidence,
Yeah.
right, of you just as a
Right.
man and feeling your sense of self worth, right, as you were getting older, and especially during that age, man, like high school age, like you're
Yeah,
figuring all
man.
this stuff out, so you find essentially kind of like a purpose, right, during that moment in time, and
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what it is? I agree with you, man.
Yeah.
Definitely before I got the muscles, I had to develop who I was. I
Okay.
had to accept where I was in the state that I was. I was a little person.
Yeah.
I was a little bitty person. I mean, anybody could lift me up. And, now I didn't get I had one bully in high school, but that, I mean, I'm sure that plays a role in who I am. But for the most part, like, it helped me develop my like kindness towards people. My parents are phenomenal human beings. They led our home well, and so the characteristics that they would preach and teach at home, I had to lean on those as a young man, as a young boy, turning into a young man.
Yeah.
And the physicality gave me a target. It gave me something that didn't necessarily define me, but it would like refine me. It would help me along the way of trying to show this character that I depended on to try to survive while I was, younger. So yeah, from that, definitely a purpose was birthed because, when you get recognized for something, especially by somebody of the opposite sex at like 14, 15 years old, like
Yeah.
it'll really, at least somebody like me, I'm like, okay, I need to get more of that because I like that kind of
That's
attention.
that
So
motivation
I
is
say the
real.
origins weren't necessarily pure, but God
Bro.
used them, man.
Dude, that's no joke, man. That's the reason why I became Christian.
Yeah,
church
hey, listen,
church
man, them
girls, bro.
Christian dudes,
That
bruh.
that's what started me going to church, and then all of a sudden,
Hey, man.
then I became a Christian.
Hey, but
It's
you
so
know what?
funny, bro.
Whatever
Yeah,
he takes,
yeah.
yeah, that's whatever it
That's
takes.
funny,
That's
man.
definitely was a
The
gateway.
the,
Yeah, man.
the hero origin stories of girls say you look good. Cool. Yeah, let's do this.
Let's have it. And she was a nice person, by the way. It wasn't like she was like fast or she was a very kind person. So it was cool for somebody with nice character to recognize
Yeah.
me because like wow, that's very meaningful. That it gives yeah, these muscles aren't just for they're not just for looks. I guess like they can get people to I don't know they can get people to notice you that are actually meaningful human beings. I don't know.
Switching gears just a little bit, I want to get into, and I'm looking at just kind of my notes. That's why I'm kind of
Yeah.
shifting my eyes over here because I want to get into some of these fitness kind of myths, man. So, what are the most common myths about fitness that keep dads stuck in an unhealthy cycle that you've seen?
Oh man. I got to be honest, man. There's myths out there,
Yeah,
but in my experience, the biggest challenge that fathers, men that are trying to work out, guys that are trying to really get after it and figure this thing out, the biggest challenge that they face is it's partly overconsumption, not really okay, food maybe, but
mm,
like of information.
yeah,
Um, there's so much information out there. And as we have developed as human beings, whether it's through technology or studying the craft, whatever, as we've developed our ability to communicate in persuasive and meaningful ways and inspiring and motivating ways, there's so much information out there that inspires and that draws men this way or that way. And so not necessarily a myth, but a challenge that I see that a lot of men face. And I've fallen victim to this myself is
yeah,
it's like the paralysis by analysis type situation
yeah.
where, name this big scientist person that has all this research and this background that's legit and they share, you have to be eating enter whatever in
It's like
that blank. You have to be
intermittent
eating meat, or
fasting,
you have to be
right?
eating only
Or like
vegetables,
keto
intermittent
diets, and
fasting.
like, yeah,
Yes, all those. And there's such good research on all those, but you get that person that you trust and believe in that motivates you to do that. And then you tap into somebody else that's also very credible, also a good communicator, also a respectable man. And he's saying, yo, no, you got to do, cardio and eat, low fat, whatever the case may
yeah,
be. Then that's the biggest challenge that I see and that I experience that I work with nowadays. But to go with myths, man, really, I would say it depends on people's age.
mm,
The older people are, they typically will still be really dependent on still like a basic understanding of calorie in, calorie out, and fat being from the devil, and carbs being well. There's some people believe carbs are from the devil. Some people believe carbs are the only way forward. So yeah, a lot of nutritional myths as far as exercise is concerned, they're not myths, but they're a narrow way of looking at training, heavyweight, low reps versus, or for building strength versus high reps, low weight for building like for chiseling or for defining the muscles.
Yeah.
Those aren't necessarily false or myths, but they're a limited way of looking at how training or really how one's body responds to training. So I don't know, how much do you want me to nerd out on this?
Well, I mean, you know what I was thinking about too, and a previous
Yeah,
conversation that you and I were having
yeah,
about like having clients that are like still using a workout program from like 1982, like an older generation,
yes,
right? Like where they're just
yeah,
relying on like that's kind of what you're saying is that they're relying on old information that
right,
may or may not, because of new research and new things that have been discovered, like may or may not be as relevant or as efficient anymore, right?
right.
So
Yeah, man,
yeah,
let me speak to that.
yeah, yeah,
So the guy that has his program from 95, you know, that man, when I did this program, I was in the best shape of my life. Yes, they are not up to date with what the latest and greatest is, but in addition to that, their body is not, they're not who they were in 95.
yeah,
The caveat to that is that guy gets what most people miss, which is this worked and I'm going to be consistent with it.
yeah.
Like, I just want the direction, and this worked before, so it's going to work again. I'm just going to keep doing it until it works. Although that doesn't always pan out the way it did back in 95,
Yeah.
that tenacity and that consistency to be like, hey, this is my program. Man, that's the stuff. That's the stuff. I think if there's a myth somewhere in here in this conversation and even in the ether, it's thinking that if I just find the right thing to do, then I'm gonna get healthy. Then I'm gonna get in the best shape of my life.
Yeah.
And that's not true. If you do something with consistency, your body is going to respond. It's going to change. Whether it's a change in the direction you want or not, that's to be decided. But the thing is doing something with consistency.
Mm.
That's what a lot of people, I think, are missing, is the consistency to stick with something.
And can
Yeah.
you speak to like work? And this is from my curiosity, like workout variety, right? Like when, like, let's say somebody does have a workout program that they're on, and let's say it's like a six
Yeah.
week program, right? Where it's like the same
Yeah.
type of exercise for the next 6 weeks. And then after those 6 weeks are up, they're going to do that same program again. They're going to kind of rinse
Yeah.
and repeat that program over and over. And they're just going to do that because that's what they found to be effective for them. And what I've seen, and and even in my own experience, like plateauing, right? Because you're doing the same
Yeah.
exercise over and over. So where does workout like variety and being open minded about trying, whether it's like CrossFit or like jujitsu, like yourself, or doing something different, getting different muscle
Yeah.
groups moving, like how does that
Yeah.
benefit?
Man,
Yeah.
really good question. Without going into like all of the program design nerdiness, if you have a program that you can follow for 6 weeks, if you can find another program that emphasizes maybe a different, so for example, if the 6 week program is a uh, weight loss program, so it's
Mm.
training with moderate intensities, lower rest periods, whatever the case may be, and that's like it's a good block that you got from name whoever your YouTube or your Instagram friend is that gave you that program. Cool.
Yeah.
If you can alternate that with another program that emphasizes complementary characteristics,
Okay.
then the variety is going to be helpful. It's necessary to avoid plateaus, but beyond that, it's necessary to also avoid injuries. So sticking and doing the same thing over and over again, especially if you're constantly trying to progress the weight or the number of reps or what have you, that's all well and good until it's not, because it can lead to like things like overuse injuries,
Yeah.
right? We see a lot of people that come in, or a lot of people that I've had the pleasure of working with, that have stuck to a 6 week or 12 week or 8 week program, and they've maxed it out for 3 or 4 or 5 cycles, and they come in and they're all super muscle bound on all the muscles that they've been consistent with, and everything that would complement or would basically balance that out is so underdeveloped to
Yeah.
the point to where they start getting injuries in their shoulders and their hips and even in the lower body, knees and stuff. So variety is very important. With that said, if you have a plan that you can do and alternate with another plan, and you can go back and forth, and each of those they complement each other without necessarily being the same thing,
Mm.
you can rinse and repeat that for a lot longer. You can be consistent with that for a lot longer. And what I hope that people can understand is
Yeah.
doing something is better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So if it's a 6 week program that you got in 95 that work, do it. But man, do a little research or find somebody like me or find somebody like G who has a workout regimen and say, hey man, what are you doing? And maybe put a semblance of something that can complement or be an alternative for a little while that you can do for 6 weeks to get that variety to avoid the overuse and then go back and forth and be consistent. Yeah.
So with that, right? Because a lot of the guys, and I know like some guys going to be listening right now. A dad, right? And he's probably listening to this or watching this maybe on the way to work. He's a busy dad, right?
Yeah.
Balancing the family, balancing everything he's got to do for work, and he's probably got things to do at home and all that. So let's talk about, what are some small, like everyday habits that dads can adapt to improve their physical health without overhauling their lifestyle? What are some things that you can recommend?
Oh boy, I love this question. This is where I spend a lot of my time with my clients. It's a very boring list, but at the top of the list, man, water and sleep, those two right off the top. Waking up in the morning, let's say you get a full night's rest, whoever that is out there. If you're a dad that has that already sorted out every night, you're getting a full night's rest, man, I commend you. Let us know how you do it so we can follow suit.
Especially if you have an infant. If you have an infant, please
Man,
let us know.
if you got eight
Yeah,
kids, two kids, older kids, it doesn't matter, man.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
got somebody else outside your spouse there, man, yeah. But let's say you get a full night's rest. That full night, you've gone 8 hours without eating or drinking, unless you're like a sleepwalker, get up in the middle of the night and eat and drink something. Typically, you're knocked out. You got a good night's rest. 8 hours at least, without drinking and eating anything.
Mm.
So habitually, something that's very easy to incorporate when you start your morning, man, getting a large slug of water, 8 to 20 ounces of water, and just starting off the day hydrating. It's boring, but the number of issues that a lot of people suffer from that have downstream effects that end up being a little bit more challenging or like actual issues, health issues, but are rooted in something as simple as dehydration.
Yeah.
Just to nerd out a little bit, the way the cells work is that, all of our cells, we're made up of a bunch of cells. They communicate with each other. And if a cell doesn't have if it's not nice and full and plump, then all the signaling on the outside or from the inside to the outside, etc., is kind of thrown off, and so it doesn't signal as well, or it doesn't receive signals as well, and so that dehydration or a dehydrated status can really decrease the function of vital cells that help to control all sorts of stuff.
Mm.
So hydration, and then at the other end of the day is getting to bed and having a nighttime routine. We all know now about blue light, we know about screens and everything, but what we can benefit from is trying to create a habit or a structure of a nighttime routine where you're literally doing the same thing every night so that your body knows, hey, after he has his vitamins or after he writes in his journal or whatever the case may be, after he reads his kids a bedtime story, he goes and lays down with a book and then he falls asleep. Like doing things like that to where your body knows what to expect when it comes to sleep. Those two, and this list is extensive. I can keep going if you want me to,
Yeah.
but those two, man, I find a third is probably protein intake. But let me just finish on those two.
Yeah.
I find that although those are boring, and when people pay me and they come to me, they don't want to be told you got to sleep better and drink water. They want my expertise and this specific training modality and this mobility scheme, and
They want all the sexy
really, and it's
stuff, man.
like
Yeah.
all the sexy stuff. But
Yeah.
like, bro, you're not sleeping. You can't recover from all the stuff that I give you on top of your day to day. If you have a
Yeah.
wife and kids, all the stress that you have to deal with at work that then you bring home to try to compartmentalize so you could be a good husband and a good father, and all that load
Yep.
sitting on top of whatever workout you need to do or try to squeeze in at the end of the day, or you started to squeeze it at the beginning of the day, and it compresses who you are. And then you want me to give you something sexy, but like, bro, you're not sleeping.
Hmm.
It's impossible. Like, I like to stay on the foundation. So, man, hydration so that your cells can talk to each other in a way that is beneficial to you, and then actually working on your sleep. Man, if you knock those down and really get those, now you'll start to build changes that will actually, you'll get these transformations that you don't think are possible because your brain is functioning well and it can talk to the rest of your body to do what the demands that you put on it for. It can adapt to those much better.
I don't get this perfect, but when I go to sleep on time and then I get plenty of
Right,
water in the morning, dude, like,
right.
yeah, I'm not getting that like 2 o'clock slug where you're just like, oh man, like I'm drained right now, like
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
yeah, it's interesting, man, when you're speaking about that. So
yeah.
let's switch into fitness,
Okay.
family, right?
Yeah,
How can dads involve their kids in fitness, man, to create sort of like a culture of health in their home? Because I
yeah,
find this something that like guys, and I've complained about this as well, is like where I'm going in for a workout in the gym room and then the kids come in,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
it's like, oh, dude, don't wait, like you're like lifting something, you're like, wait, don't touch that. Like,
yeah.
how do you, how can you do that, man? Because then I've stepped in and I've stumbled with this where I'm like, I get into like yelling mode or I get
Yeah,
frustrated, right? Where I'm like,
yeah.
get out, like do this and that, and then I feel like crap because I'm like, man, he was just trying to be in there with me to try to work out with me. He's a kid.
Right.
He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand that he can get hurt. He's a baby. So how do
Right.
we, in a healthy way, involve them in this fitness journey, man, with us?
Lead from the front.
Mm,
So your experience is the same way I do. Kids are so amazing. They're so kind. They're so beautiful and gracious. They want to do what we do.
yeah.
They want to be around us just because we exist and they love us. And we don't, and so the risk of getting hurt is there, same as it is for us as adults. But man, to show the habit and the example to kids, to show the consistency, that's just what dad does. That's what mom and dad do. Dad goes into the gym room and he puts in work for however long you're in there. Um, Involving kids, when you become proficient at a specific, maybe a regimen. Let's go back to that 6 week plan that you found.
Yeah.
And you get proficient at it, and maybe you found the other one, and so you're cycling back and forth, and you've got done a couple, 2 or 3 cycles, and you feel confident about it. Man, you're a coach. You're the first strength coach. Like, you don't have to go to college to be able to do something that you yourself have found how to do safely.
Mm,
Um, Man, we what we do in our home um, is we safely, and I have a story about that because we actually had an accident this past weekend. I'll
oh
have to
wow.
tell you about that. Maybe offline. I don't know. I can share it here if you want.
Yeah.
But safely, there's I try to make things fun for the kids because the type of work and the amount of work that's necessary for training, like the intensity that's needed, to try to put that on them at a young age is too much. But if
Mm,
they can enjoy just being in there, maybe it's the last 5 to 10 minutes of the workout where you're finishing up, or the first 5 to 10. It's like, okay, hey, you're gonna warm up with me. I'm gonna do these jumping jacks. I'm gonna do these little push-ups, and
yeah.
I'm gonna do these, and I want to see how many you can do. Man, leading from the front, just being the man of consistency, and then involving them and trying to make it kind of an enjoyable process. I think it's great. I have clients that come in. I encourage this a lot. They come in with their kids. Some of their kids, I had one client, she gave birth, and as soon as she was cleared, she brought her baby and her two older babies, but they were still young. I think they were 4 and like
Oh wow, they're small. Yeah.
3,
Yeah.
or maybe like 5 and 3, and then a newborn.
Yeah.
And Mama was putting in work. And at the end, we would save about 10 minutes at the end of the session. We get those big exercise balls. We'd go outside and, man, I was the bowling pin and that ball was the bowling ball.
That's
And
awesome, man.
I'd knock it out. And just being in that atmosphere, maybe even not necessarily working out, but having fun. The same way the bank gives your kids lollipops, like when
Mm-hmm.
you go to the bank drive-through or whatever, man, that's
Yeah.
like, yo, they like going to the bank because there's something pleasurable about being there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reward for just
Yeah,
showing
there's
up.
a reward. And so for our kids, man, the reward is time with dad, time with mom, doing what mom and dad does.
Yeah.
Like I know dad is being healthy because he works out. My daddy works out. My daddy can lift that big old dumbbell right there. That's what my daddy can do. And
Mm.
then getting in there and like, hey man, having a good time, maybe letting them do a push up or something, or saying, hey man, can you put that weight up for me, that little 5, 10 pound weight for me?
Yeah.
And just giving them a sense of ownership that they're with the big dogs, man, for a young man, and even for my young ladies. Like, you said I got a lot of kids, man. A lot of my kids are girls. So man, even for them being in there and putting in work, I'll challenge my kids. Like, try to do a push up. Not all my kids can, sorry, a pull up. Not all my kids can do pull ups.
Mhm.
But the moment that they do something that is close to a pull up, yo,
Yep.
biggest cheerleader. Whoa, man, that was close. You're 1 inch higher than you were last time. That's 100% better than the last inch. It's a lot of just letting them be part of and then allowing it to be a pleasant experience, man. But
Yeah.
ultimately leading from the front, like being about it. Like if that's not your vibe, letting them come in there because it could get dangerous, show up consistently. Keep showing up. Keep putting in the work. Let them see you when you're in there. Even if it's like, hey, you got to stay at the door while I finish this set. Let them see you and be consistent because that's that. A lot is caught. More is caught than taught.
Yeah.
They'll look and they see daddy's always going to the gym or daddy's always working out. Man, that goes a long way, bro. That's part of the culture.
I love that, man. Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
spot on, man. And how do you think the strategy is the same? Because we talk kids, right? But how do you bring
Yeah.
your wife along with that, man?
Woo!
When one of you like, and this tends to be the case a lot of the times. Not saying in every situation, but a lot of the times, the
Yeah.
man tends to be more active, more,
Yeah.
and then the wife is, taking care of a lot of responsibility. If there's stay-at-home mom like my wife is, like she's
Yeah.
taking a lot of
Yeah.
the responsibilities of the home and the kids
Right.
and homeschooling in our case, right? Like, so it's a
Right.
lot, man. And then the last thing
Yeah.
you want to do is try to get a workout in. So it's like,
Right.
how do you lead on that side?
Yeah, man. And the worst part about it, bro, is let's say y'all both start working out, man. Dudes 100% of the time see results way faster. And it's like,
Yeah.
yo, I did 10 push-ups and I could see my muscles. She did 50 push-ups and like, yo, she's struggling.
Yeah.
Man, I, I, I- I'll speak from my experience.
Yeah.
My wife and I met in college. There was a season when I was learning all this stuff that like I was by the book. I was militant with it. Like, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That did not go well for our relationship. Like, apparently, you can't tell your wife that she's doing things wrong, and they get mad at her when she does it wrong again. Because that, I don't know, for some reason, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for my wife. I don't know about yours. But,
I agree
man,
wholeheartedly.
yeah, man, doing something together. Like, we all value our health, and it's an individual pursuit.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite sayings that Matt Bodro says is, all education is self-education. All accountability is self-accountability. Same goes for like this health journey. Like, yes, we're in this together, but it's an individual experience.
Mhm.
And so, man, any amount of encouragement that I can give to my wife when she's doing something, whether it's health related or like directly like working out or not, like, man, I take advantage of that. I recognize my wife's a homemaker as well. So we do a lot of the similar things, it sounds like, as far as the home structure is concerned. Man, workout time for my bride is her time. It's time away from the kids. That's an example where no, we're not having the kids going in there and ripping and running. It's like, no, mama's working out because for this 30 minutes to an hour, she is being able to decompress, maybe listen to a podcast or listen to her own music or
Yeah.
not hear kids. So creating an environment of encouragement, but then also giving the space, just depending on how the home structure is, to where if mama needs time for herself, being the man and showing up in the areas that would allow her to do that. Likewise, then we've been fortunate in certain seasons where my wife loves to walk. Um, and so, man, we'll take the kids and we'll go on a walk. Is that the most intense thing? No.
Yeah.
But does it decrease stress levels for my wife? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's huge. So as a man, as a father, as a husband, it sounds like I had the same response, is allowing yourself to be involved in one of their lives. But I think when it comes to your bride, it's more of, hey, we're in this together. So I'm not necessarily telling you what to do unless you want my guidance, but we're in this together. I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to support you. I'm going to tell you you look good. I'm going to tell you I notice the things that you're aspiring to. And I'm going to say, hey, just stick with it. Be patient when it feels like nothing's happening, when it feels like you're overwhelmed, man. It's all the other stuff that's not necessarily fitness related,
Yep.
but it's like trying to be a good husband, man. Like, we're all self-conscious to a certain level, and
Yeah.
our wives aren't different. And it's crazy, man. A compliment from me still works. Like, it's amazing. I've been
Yeah.
married for 11 years, and when I give my wife a compliment, it works. It makes her smile. It makes her
Yeah.
feel good. And so that, combined with any kind of health endeavor, encouraging the good things that she's trying to do, it goes a long way.
Love it, man. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is just, prioritizing giving her space to be able to do that, right? To
Sure.
and do it in whatever capacity she can, but just making it
Right.
top of mind for you, that
Right.
you care enough to give her space for that. Hey, I want to take the kids. Here's your time. Go have a workout. Go out for a walk. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just do some kind of activity, and some physical activity, even if it's just a walk, is better than nothing, man. Like it's
Yeah.
something, right? And it reduces
Yeah.
stress levels, like you were saying. So I love it, man.
Everybody's situation is different. Not
Yeah,
everybody has a stay-at-home mom, and some people whose wives are in the workforce outside the home. But man, I think the needs, there's some trends as far as the needs are similar. Yeah, being that support, that role, that rock,
yeah,
it's huge, bro.
yeah. I love that, man. Yeah, because
Yeah.
even in those situations, I'm thinking about, as you're saying it, and even in those situations, it's the same thing, right? It's like
Yeah.
prioritizing, given the time that you have in the evening or in the morning before you both have to head to work. What
Yeah.
can you move, right? What can you shift around, even if it's like a 20-minute, 30-minute block, where you can
Yeah.
give each other that space to be able to do that. So I love that,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
let's talk to a dad that's just, let's say they're listening to our talk about the importance of fitness in their life and health in their life, and they're just getting started on that journey. They're like, man, I've been putting this off for too long. They're just getting started on the journey. How should dad measure progress beyond the scale or looking at himself in the mirror?
Measure your progress based on your commitment.
Mm,
Commit, don't quit. Like, how many days in a row can you do something that benefits your health? How many days in a row can you make sure you drink water every day? How many days in a row can you eat vegetables at least 2 meals out of the day? How many days in a row can you, at the very least, go on a walk or do a workout? Like, how many weeks in a row can you work out 3 or 4 times a week? Measure your progress based on your commitment, because what you're trying to do in the early stages is develop a physical precedence. Like, you're trying to develop a you want to tell your body, hey, this is what I do.
mm,
Therefore, I need you to take the shape that helps me do this most efficiently and most effectively. And starting out, if you're super heavy, the scale may move and then hit a plateau. Or if you're not, you're trying to build muscle, you may get some muscle and then hit a plateau.
mm.
Um, but early on, if you quit, then it's like saving up all your money and then spending it on that big Disney vacation, and then the next year starting over, saving up all your money. You're not actually making progress. You're going here, You're going here, then going back. Here, going back. But if you boom, I'm going here, I hit a plateau. Okay, boom, but I'm gonna keep moving. I'm gonna keep moving. I'm gonna keep moving. I'm gonna keep moving. All of a sudden, you hit another one. Okay, I got another plateau, but you keep moving. You commit, don't quit. That's how you measure your progress early on, and you could do that for, I would say, for years. In the sports, in the world level sports, it takes an average of like 7 years to develop a world class athlete. So from, hey, I just started this sport to like I am performing at the Olympics or at the highest levels of human performance takes 7 years.
Wow.
And that's for world class genetic freaks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so regardless of whether you fall in that category or not, there's years involved, right? There's time involved. And if you do something consistently for a long time, your body will change. Your body will adapt. And so measuring yourself beyond the scale, like it's all well and good to pay attention to the scale, pay attention to your macros, pay attention to how much weight you're lifting from 1 week or 1 month to another. But how consistent, how committed are you to
Yeah.
doing something that's helpful to learning and applying what you learn when it comes to your health journey? That's I think the best way to measure yourself, especially starting out.
Yeah, that's huge, man. It's just that consistent. It always goes back to those daily habits, right? Of just
Yeah.
having the habit of doing this. And even if it's like, I talk to my guys about this, like having like a non-negotiable default, just something
Yeah.
that you just don't go below, right? And
Yeah.
then that will help you just kind of be consistent and not go and revert back. Cause that starting over that you were talking about, that is like
Yeah.
the worst part, man. That's the worst
Yeah.
part. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I think the analogy you used about like saving up all your money and then just blowing it on a Disneyland trip or something, like that's the
Right.
perfect analogy, because then you
Yeah.
gotta work your way back up and wait for those checks to come in so you can stack again.
Yeah.
And yeah, man,
Yeah.
it's not worth it. So just keeping that consistency, yeah, it's good, man.
Yeah. And even on that, if you don't mind me going on a little bit more,
Yeah, go for it.
speaking to even it's a new beginner, but they have that same access to a bunch of information we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah,
Like, man, like you will eventually do the really cool and sexy stuff if you're consistent with the basic stuff.
yeah,
Like a lot of times people will start a program that's really great and I'm committed to, then they'll commit to another program that's really great and I'm committed to. Then they'll commit to another program. And it's like it's not necessarily diversification. It's taking your money. I have these money analogies. You're like, okay, I'm gonna go with this stock. This stock is really good. But there's this other stock, and you take it out of that. Or even worse, you take a little bit out of that stock and you put it into this stock, a little bit out of that stock, and put it into this stock. And then you have this version of like, oh, I know a bunch of stuff. I'm doing all these exercise programs, but I'm not going anywhere because I've not invested enough time in this particular modality or training to
yeah,
really get the most out of it. So along with just doing something, it's like, yo, find something and stick with it. Like our red blood cells live between 80 and 100 days. Let's call it 90 days, right? That's 3 months, right? So every 3 months you have brand new red blood cells. And other cells, they have different lives. I don't remember all the cells and how their lives, but let's just imagine that your red blood cells are super important. They transport oxygen, among many other things. So like, where am I going with that? It takes your body, like, just give your body like 90 days. Do something for 90 days and see how your body adapts as you become a new person, right? Like if you change the way you eat and work out one way and then another way because it's not working within a month or 2 months, like, yo, give it at least 3 months, see where it's at, and then subtly make changes that you think will help what you're doing be more effective instead of, going back to the Disneyland, starting over, doing something, something else, or quitting. Don't
yeah.
quit.
No,
Commit. Don't quit.
commit, don't quit, man. I love that, dude.
Yeah.
All right, man. I wanna be respectful of your time because we're coming up on the hour here.
Gotcha.
But I want to ask you this particular question. Like, so what's one habit, either habit, mindset, routine, whatever you want to use, you believe that every dad should adopt to lead their family effectively?
Spend time with God. Man, I can only speak from my experience. Having a relationship with somebody greater than me, somebody outside of me, that I believe in my heart is in charge of everything, and spending time submitting myself to God and then asking for wisdom and then moving according to the leadership that he provides, whether it's through his word or through a message from somebody,
Yeah.
then fa- having that relationship is the foundation for life as I know it. I would not be who I am, where I am without God, because on my own, I'm beyond a hot mess. I'm a pretty scummy, bro. I'm a pretty scummy human being. Who I am just on my own, I'm a wretched person. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but like I'm not a good person. And so by submitting my will, by submitting myself to God, I then take on a mission that's not my own, but that I have a responsibility for. And that purpose leads me to show up in ways that I myself am unwilling to. Like, I don't want to be true to myself. Because if I'm true to myself, we wouldn't be talking. I wouldn't be talking to you. I wouldn't I wouldn't be talking to my wife. If I was true to myself, I wouldn't be showing up for my kids. So I can't be true to myself, man. I have to be true to God. I need that relationship with God because the way that he draws me, he's drawn me through his leadership has made me a better person, has made me, I believe, the person that he designed me to be. So I'm not perfect on that front, but there's no better altar to sacrifice myself on than the altar of our Lord. Yeah, that's my answer, man. Spending
Yeah.
time with God at the foundation. And then from there, everything else, you know, yeah. I don't know if you want a fitness related response because I can give you
No,
one
bro.
as well.
Hey, that's it, man. Like
Yeah.
that's real. You know what you're saying right there is real, man. And you're right. Like we're all broken, man, bro. We're all flawed,
Yeah.
men. We're all men that are inconsistent at times in different areas of life. Like, you know, we're all trying to figure out the disciplines of all the different facets of life, especially as a dad, as a husband,
Yeah.
as a man. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard, bro. You know, and
Yeah.
we're getting beat up culturally all around. The society's beating up men. So, you know, they make us look like bumbling idiots on social media, on movies and entertainment and TV shows and all that, man. And we're just flawed human beings trying to figure it out. You know,
Yeah.
so you saying that you use God as a North Star every single day, that's powerful. You know,
Do my best, man.
because we need it. We need that guidance. We need that North Star. And one of the things that I heard, man, I'll share this with you. I think I've shared it on the podcast before, but I heard this from a guy named Myron Golden. He's like a business coach. You might have seen some stuff from him, but he mentioned the concept of surrendering to God versus yielding to God, right?
Ooh.
And this is something that I really like because I've always had a problem with the idea of surrendering to God, surrendering my will to God or surrendering, right? And so one of the things that Myron said is that when that the word surrender or the idea of surrendering to God is not in the Bible. And the idea there is that because when you surrender, you're surrendering to an enemy. Like if you think war, conflicts, right? One of the sides wins and the other side surrenders to them, and that you're surrendering to an enemy, to an opposition. And when you think about the word yielding is something that you do to a friend, is something that you do to someone that you trust. You know, it's like, and this is the picture, this is how my brain works. You know, think about like back in high school, you're going to get into a fight and one of your buddies tells you, hey man, it's not worth it. You know, they stop you from making a mistake, you know, doing something that you probably shouldn't be doing, you know? So they cause you to yield because it's a trusted friend. It's somebody that you respect. And when he said that, that really resonated with me where I was like, man, I like that concept of yielding to God, like yielding my life to God because I respect him, because I trust him, because I'm following him and he is my North Star.
Right.
He's not an enemy. I don't want to surrender to him. I want to yield to him because he's a friend of mine. So yeah, it's just the dynamics, and it could be just semantics, right? But that concept really resonated with me. I just thought I'd share it with you because it made me think about what you were saying.
Yeah.
And it kind of relates, right, to this idea of having him as a North Star, this idea of giving yourself up and your will and your goals and kind of taking on his mission for your life versus you coming up with yours.
Right.
So, yeah, man, I love that, dude. I resonate with that a lot. So
Yeah,
I
man.
appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. However you end up there, man, just living outside yourself. Like one thing that I've noted to be true, and I'm really like the longer I go, like I'm really starting to believe it as like just a foundational truth is, man, you have to be living in a way that you're outside of yourself.
Mm,
And somewhere in there, it's rooted in serving people outside of yourself, serving somebody
yeah.
outside of yourself. So whether that's God or your community, your family. As men, I think we're designed to pour out. So yeah, starting off for me, habitually starting off by pouring out and yielding, surrendering, yielding to God, and then pouring out of myself in service to, to others. Like, man, there's no higher calling than that.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah, bro.
I love it, man. I love it. All right, man. So where can we go and support you, bro? Like, where can we find more of your work?
Yes.
Where can the people go to connect with you? Where's some of the social media stuff and anything you got going on?
Yeah, man. So right now I'm on Instagram at Chacha Strength, all one word, Chacha, Chacha, Strength, Strength. That's typically where I spend most of the time. I have a YouTube channel that's up and coming, but one of our brothers, DT, Derek Thorne, is helping me put together the website, chachastrength.com, where that'll be the resource for everybody that's looking to level up in areas of faith, family, and fitness. My biggest offering, my experience is in fitness, but I also have a family and I'm a person of faith, and I welcome that. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm fairly active there. I'll put information out there, and then by the end of the month, hopefully, I don't know when this episode is going to drop, but hopefully by the time this episode drops, the website, chachastrength.com, should be up, and all the resources, the way to contact me is there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, brother. Well, dude, I appreciate you, man. I love you. Thank you so much for being the good man that you are. And, man, I thank you for showing up here today, man, and blessing the people with your knowledge on health and fitness, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you too, G. I mean, it's really incredible what you put together here and what you're building and crafting for these men. I am that guy that listens to these episodes and goes into programs like this because I'm humble enough to know that I need help. And so, man, you providing a service for it's fine. I look at it as a ministry for other dads to level up and show up, man. That's what changes this world. So thank you for what you do, bro. Man, all the men that listen to this, everybody that listens to this, man, I love you. I'm proud of you, man. Keep showing up. Commit. Don't quit.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah,
Thank you for those words, man.
Yeah, for sure.
1, 2, 3 actions I didn't meet. 4, 5, 6 fear and silence begin to mix. 7, 8, 9 the thought of being emotionless started taking over my mind.